Sit back and listen to what I'm telling you. You walk into the night, you're ready for a fight. There are those who wanna slay you, and those who gonna love you. And a trick, my friends, know from her. Watch your steps, know what you want to do. Watch your words, know who you're talking to. Know your stands, know what you're standing for. Ooh, yeah. You know I'm telling you. You walked into the night. You know I'm telling you. Get ready for that fight. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, that night is gonna get you, I say to you, stay on your path, my friend, but beware who walks with you. There are those who are gonna stop you, and those who are gonna help you. The trick, my friends, knowing who from who. Steps, know what you want to do. What your words, know who you're talking to. Know your stands, know what you're standing for. Ooh, yeah. You know I'm telling you. You walked into it now. You know I'm telling you. Get ready for that fight. Whoa, oh, yeah. Whoa, that night is gonna get you, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, yeah. Whoa, night is gonna get you, night is gonna get you, yeah.
That is The Night Is Gonna Get Ya. That is by the band called Slant Six. They're from Edmonton, Alberta. That song has started to gain traction, and these guys are doing pretty good. They have 1,772 regular followers on Spotify. So that means, boys and girls, every time they put out a new track, those 1,700 people get an email notification because they've signed up for that notification. And you know why? Because they're going to stream their music, and they're going to download it, and they're going to share it with their friends, and they're probably going to put it on playlists. And the song is already tracking very, very well. I think it's upwards around 3,000 or 4,000 streams, and it's just been released. So great tune by our friend Sacha Hubert and his crew from Edmonton, Alberta. That is Slant Six. Well, we got a great show for you tonight. We got a couple of really seasoned musicians. That's AKA for, aging like fine wine. But these guys are steeped in music. They are embedded and entrenched in the London music scene. We're going to talk about that stuff tonight, what they got going on in London. And I think they're on a recruitment mission. They might even be some kind of foreign missionaries bearing something new that they want people to join. So I'm going to bring these guys on. Howie Kittleson is well known by a lot of people in London. He's a former radio personality, many years on terrestrial radio. Paul Aitken is a seasoned musician and a prof of over at Western University in London. These guys have got a great history of music to share with us tonight. So we're going to bring them online one at a time. There's Howie. Howie, how you doing?
Doing good. How you doing, man?
Good to have you here, buddy.
I'm here. The mothership has landed, as you can see.
Landed. And so what is this guy? Is he another one of the aliens or what?
Which guy? This guy on screen?
Yeah, he's right there. He's right there.
How's
How
it
you
going?
doing, buddy?
Very well, thanks.
Good to have you guys on the show tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ken.
We're going to talk about all things music like we always do here on the show.
Sounds good
You
to me.
guys are doing some different stuff over in London. You're both involved in residencies, I believe, at the Richmond Tavern.
That's right.
And some of them are together. Some of them are separate.
Wow. So
Yeah.
the Richmond is kind of known for, the music scene, right?
Well, I mean, that bar has such a great history in this town. The bar itself is 150 years old or something like that. But as a music venue, I mean, I certainly remember it from my time growing up here and played there a few times. And I think in recent years, it's become, kind of a go-to spot, certainly with venues closing around town, but also, the folks who own the place have done a lot of great stuff to, just raise the profile of the bar. They treat their musicians really, really well, and the room sounds amazing. So it's a great place to play.
There's so much wood in that room too. I mean, there's a lot of really natural absorption of sound in that room. It is a great sounding room. It's not huge, but it is a beautiful sounding room. It's like a big, nice, comfy studio.
Yeah, it sure is.
I think putting a mobile unit in there and doing some recording would be in order. Maybe
We have done some multi-track recording there before.
Right.
It always comes out really, really good.
that would be fun.
You can get away with 2-track recording in that place too, because like you say, it sounds really great in there. So it's
Oh my
you
God!
always get good stuff out of that room.
I think you could take one of those Zooms and put it in there in the right place and get a killer mix right there off of Zoom.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great
So,
spot.
Something for you guys to think about as you're doing your residencies.
We video all of the different shows,
Right.
And certainly, at least on my YouTube channel, you can catch pretty much most of the trio shows that we've done over the last 5 years. A lot of them are uploaded to that YouTube channel, so we try to video all of them, and if we get good audio out of that same video, then
what's your YouTube channel, Paul?
it's just that Paul Aitken guitar.
Okay, I'm gonna find it right now, and I'm gonna share it out with people. I'm
Thanks.
gonna let you guys talk amongst yourselves for a second about the residencies.
Well, Howie, why don't you tell them about the Astral Jams?
So the Astral Jams is it's kind of strange because this whole venture really started with our larger ensemble, Prism Tape Philosophy, which is a 6-piece band. And Astral Jams is one half of that. It's 3 of us. So it is Paul on guitar, me, and then Nicholas Eli on drums. That is one half of Prism Tape Philosophy. And over the past 2-3 years, it's kind of switched to where the core is the Astral Jams, and Prism Tape Philosophy is kind of the special occasion, special event grouping. And it has a lot to do with the fact that, this is a bunch of professional musicians, all of which have bands of their own or in multiple bands. I mean, Paul probably has to have a spreadsheet for keeping track of how many bands are you in? 11? I honestly don't know.
There are lots.
That might be low. And I'm in 3, but I sit in with a whole slew of others. Nick, our drummer.
Back in my day, you know what we used to call that?
Uh-oh.
You know what we used to call it when you were in too many bands?
Okay, go.
Do you want me to say it?
Sure, go for it. It's your channel.
You were band sluts.
Oh man, absolutely. I'll just get that tattooed. For sure.
Get the tattoo band slut.
It's no secret, man. I want to play with everybody at least once. At least once. Yeah.
Well, then you're gonna have to come over here and jam in my studio sometime.
We'll do that for sure.
Because we get some guys together every once in a while. We bring some musicians together over here in the studio, and it's just an open jam.
It's a great idea. Great way to meet other musicians too.
Yeah, we have a couple of drummers that show up and a couple of bass players that show up, and there's always a slew of guitar players.
Oh yeah, too many usually.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that though is that some of the guitar players that we jam with can hold a beat on the drums. So if there's not a drummer, somebody gets in there and improvises on the drums.
That's handy.
Yeah, it's fun, man. I mean, you never know what's going to come out of it. It's kind of like what you guys are doing. It's improvisation,
yes.
right?
Always a surprise.
And you guys are like on sort of a bit of a recruitment mission, right? Howie was saying you guys are looking for people to join you guys doing.
Well, in a way, I mean, there's a fairly long and fairly good history of avant-garde and especially improvised music in this town, going back to the 60s with the Nihil Spasm Band and people like one of my mentors, Eric Stock, and his free music unit in the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
And so, we kind of, I guess, are kind of loosely attached to that kind of tradition. And so we're always kind of looking for other musicians who kind of think the same way, who are interested.
Steve Hillier says, look at these beauties.
Thanks, Steve.
Now, Steve's an interesting dude as well.
He's got a band, Cuda Highway.
That's
Cuda
right.
Highway. I wanted to market their music for them. I love their tunes. Him and I've been back and forth over the years. It's never happened, but maybe it just wasn't meant to be, or I don't know how active they are with that anymore. But people usually end up coming to me now and to join the label because they're not getting traction on their own.
Well, it sounds like you've got a pretty good thing going there. Certainly our buddies in Newport and Brother Leeds seem to be quite happy.
We got them a lot of traction, man. I think that best number 2 band in London is about to become number 1. Both those bands are good, man. All those guys, great bunch of musicians there. And that was a referral, right? I got a referral from that was from John Couture.
Yep.
He actually introduced Brother Leeds to me because they said, well, what are you doing? Well, we're working with Indie Tunes Records. Oh, who's that? They didn't even know who I was, but next thing I know, we've got an online meeting, and we had mutual goals and things that we want to achieve, and
well, we all know you now.
It was a good fit.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah, so we've done that with every artist, and so you guys are doing this improvisational thing. And you're doing this? Both of you guys are doing a residency there, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I have a trio there with Kim Ladd playing bass and Ted Peacock playing drums, who are both, absolute legends.
Ted Peacock's a legend, man. He's been around forever.
Absolutely. I got the best of the best. So that trio, in one form or another, has been holding a residency since about 2019. Steve Clark used to play the bass in the group, and then when he retired, Kim came in and played bass.
Right.
I played with Kim for the first time, probably over 20 years ago. And I played with Ted for the first time, probably, 25, maybe even 30 years ago at this point. And so they were just nuts enough to want to join up on this thing. And we've done the residency at the Rosewood Room, and then at Dundas and Sons. And then we moved it to the Richmond last year.
So what's that? What's that entail? What's going on with that?
So we do the 4th Thursday of each month. That's kind of a new night for us. We were doing it on Mondays for the longest time, and we switched to Thursdays.
Yep.
And the music is a mix of, kind of my own original compositions and experiments with a few, improv vehicles from the kind of jazz and funk catalog. Right. And the main thrust behind that band is we kind of try to get away with anything and everything we want as long as you can tap your foot. So what you hear is
I know a keyboardist that would love to sit in with you.
Yeah, who's that?
I bet. I bet Doug Vardy would love to get up there and play some keys with you guys.
Well, if you're out there, Doug, give me a shout, man. And
yeah, he's going to be on the he's going to be on the show, and him and I talk all the time. We're actually we've been him and I've been on a project behind the scenes that no one's seen for a long time.
Okay.
We're going to be releasing a whole bunch of Doug's music.
Oh, great. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so we've got a whole catalog that him and I are putting together of music that's going to be released under the TUNZ Records label.
I'll be aging myself, but also Doug, when I say that I watched him win the Canadian Guitar Championships in 1987 or something when the Looney came out and he used the Looney as the pick on the guitar.
Right.
We all thought that was the coolest thing.
So you guys are there every Thursday?
No, the fourth Thursday of each month.
The fourth Thursday of every month at the Richmond.
That's right.
And what are the hours of that?
We do 8 to 10. We do 2 sets. It's pay what you can. And like I said, the music is 90% improvised, one time only original.
You'll never hear it again.
No, you'll hear stuff like it, but it'll never actually be the same each time.
Wow.
And in contrast, the other side of this experimental stuff that we do is I work with Howie in the Astral Jams, and he can explain that project a little bit.
We're going to bring him over there. Okay, Howie, give us a quick sort of Cole's Notes version of Astral Jams. What is it?
Well, the Astral Jams is a trio. So it's me, Mark, and Nicholas Eli, or me, Paul, and Nicholas Eli. I don't know, why do I have Mark on the brain?
I don't know.
And who's playing what instruments in that trio?
Paul plays guitar, and Nick is our drummer. Okay. And then I play that rig you see behind me, which consists of guitar, theremin, guitar, 2 theremins, a synthesizer, and bass pedals.
So some really interesting instrumentation going on in there.
And what we do there, so that is also a residency at the Richmond. That is the second Wednesday of the month. And there's also 8 to 10, 2 sets. It's also pay what you can. But in contrast to the 90% improvisational thing that the trio does, we are 100% improvisational.
Right.
And it's to the extreme. It is literally no structure whatsoever. Whereas the 90%, that 10% that Paul's referring to, that is a basic structure, a basic framework that they're playing within. It's a starting point and an ending point, and then in between, all kinds of things happen. Right. It is more akin to like the structure that, say, a jam band would do, for instance.
So it's not super structured.
No.
So people can get up there and noodle and enjoy.
But the Astral Jams, there's zero structure. As a matter of fact, with both Astral Jams and Prism Tape Philosophy, we literally we plan and discuss nothing. We don't talk about what key it's going to be in,
right?
What the time signature is going to be, what the BPM is going to be. All those things just go out the window.
And it could switch up too, right?
Oh, and it does.
Oh, it's yeah. The point is, see, our new residency is a little bit different because we have always played an hour and a half straight. That has been from inception. We get on stage, we start, and we blow, and then we wind it down and we walk off stage. We're going to try 2 1-hour sets with a little bit of a break. Hopefully it gives us an opportunity to mingle a little bit more. People aren't running out the door. We're not trying to pack. A venue's not trying to drive us out. But it is nonstop. It is there. We're not playing songs in the traditional sense, and we're absolutely not repeating anything. There's nothing that gets repeated ever. We don't come back to anything. It just is straight up 100% pure improvisation. Because that's the thing is, most of what people see that is called improvisation, like take a band like Fish or Grateful Dead, for example, there was way more structure involved in that than most people would understand, realize, or even hear, because it sells a safety net. And our stuff, we absolutely do safety net. We want to see how dangerous it can get, how far to the edge we can push. It's We play music the way those kids that hang off those cliffs and hold each other, and hang off of bridges, and you're like, oh my
Right.
God, they're gonna die. That is the limit that we're pushing music to with Astral Jams.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
I like the sport analogy there. I mean, it's high risk. It's also extremely high reward. And it's all done, kind of in the spirit of conversation. Every one of us is listening, probably spending more time listening to what each other is playing than we are playing stuff, like a decent conversation would happen. So, it kind of distinguishes, certainly in the Astral Jams, it distinguishes that from, what you might think of as jamming or noodling or something like that. It's really very much about trying to push the musical conversation forward, introducing new ideas constantly, building on existing ideas, and really trying to present it as a kind of a musical conversation of sorts, that is very much working in that kind of high risk area. So for the listener, it's almost, helpful to know that that's what's going on, because I think without some of that foreknowledge, it could probably come across as a bit random and unfocused.
Smoke a joint before you go to the show.
You can certainly do that, and you may find that you find yourself pulled in even deeper than you would be otherwise. But certainly, there's nothing random about it. There's nothing accidental about anything that we're doing.
So there is a similarity there between what you're talking about and what we do with Green Ink, because we don't play to a click track ever. It's all feel.
Mm-hmm.
Every song is its own original recording, because we'll never play it that way ever again.
Yeah.
Right. And every song, when we play it, sometimes the tempo is faster, sometimes the tempo is slower. It's all feel and then where we start, and sometimes the drummer will be the guy that puts something in there that clicks in my head and go, okay, we're going to go here tonight.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah. I mean, there are very few forms of music that don't involve at least some sort of improvisation. And certainly for, both of these projects that we're talking about tonight, we tend to think of it on a scale, and here you have kind of the extreme version of that in the Astral Jams, whereas, almost all performances will involve some form of improvisation. Like you say, tempo could change, vibes could change, feel could change, tones could change. And you work
we love to mess around with time signatures and stuff like that, right? You'll hear some of our songs and you'll hear 3, maybe 4 changes in time signature throughout the song, because we don't want to make it monotonal.
Mm-hmm.
We're baking a cake here. It's going to have layers in it.
Make sure it doesn't fall.
Yeah, and then you got people putting the icing on top of the cake. Sometimes that once that rhythm section starts going and the rhythm section figures out they got a groove going on, and everybody else is just falling into place.
Yep.
Sounds
like fun.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what you guys are essentially doing, is painting outside the lines.
Yeah, very much so. And with a lot of intentionality to that, for sure.
How does that feel doing that?
Howie, you go first.
How does that feel?
Well, I think it's the most rewarding of the things that we do in a lot of ways, because it's as we said, it's taking a gigantic risk, and when you land on your feet, when you do a whole bunch of cartwheels or whatever, and then you can land it and stick it, the crowd roars, right? Like when people see you do something that It seems to be physically impossible, and that they cannot do and can only be a viewer of. It blows their minds, and that the feedback from that is amazing.
Right.
Yeah,
We got
you
some
know,
hellos. We got some hellos here. I want to share that with you guys. Vera Kittleson.
that's my
Eric,
wife.
Eric
The lovely
Broadbent
Miss
says,
Liz.
howdy, guys.
Eric is a fine guitar player. He's in How's That?
And Brad Coward says, hi.
What's up,
Two
Brad?
fine musicians. He says, two fine musicians there, Ken.
Thanks, Brad. And you too.
You know, it's interesting. We often talk on the show about the 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you know, and how musically connected people are.
Well, it's funny that you bring up Kevin Bacon because that's another band that I play in. It's a bluegrass band called Kevin's Bacon Train. So we're 1 degree away from that one this time.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, you know, and Howie, like, you've got this great feeling of accomplishment. Do you think it's the most rewarding thing you've ever done musically?
Oh, geez. I mean, I'm really proud of everything I've done. I mean, our keyboard player Brent just left. We spent the afternoon working on some parts and listening to some recordings we have in progress. Plus, I just played on his solo record, and
Right.
that's something I'm extremely proud of. But I think overall, yeah, I mean, this is the crowning achievement. This collaboration that is two entities. It's Prism Tape Philosophy and Astral Jams. It is something I'm very proud of because of how rewarding it is, due to the fact that it is so pure. It's as
Right.
pure as you could possibly get it. We're not being put into a box by anybody, nor are we
Right.
putting ourselves into a box.
Right.
There is literally nobody else really honestly doing what Astral Jams does.
You had a musician in Prison Tapes Philosophy. I'm not sure that person's there right now, but you and I are both friends with that individual. Did you know that?
No, which one's
You know-
that?
Do you know who it might be? He's a percussionist.
Percussionist,
Yeah, drummer.
drummer.
Kevin H.T. Swallowwell. Did that ring a
Oh.
bell?
Yeah, well, he, AKA the Kid.
Yeah.
So he is still listed on our website and our Facebook page as an auxiliary member. He knows he has an open invitation to play with us anytime.
Right.
The last time that he did play with us, I believe, was Close to the Edge 2021.
Right.
However, he played with us at our second ever gig, and he was 15 years old.
He's a killer. This kid is a killer drummer.
He's a great drummer. He's a great kid.
I
Great
met
guy.
him at Drumfest, and
nice.
we became instantaneous friends. His dad Kevin and I are friends.
Mhm.
Adam's been to the studio a few times with his dad. We've jammed. I've released their music under Reckneck.
Reckneck, yeah.
So Reckneck is on my label. Did you guys know that?
Cool.
I did not know that, no.
Some of the best prog rock written ever. And Kevin is a killer singer
Wicked.
and a killer guitar player. You know, did
Yeah,
you guys?
Yeah, Kevin
He's
does Ozzy.
Yeah,
Kevin does the Ozzy thing.
He's got
amazing.
he's got an operatic voice, man.
Cool.
He's got a great voice. And then Adam is a killer drummer in his own right. So you guys would have had an interesting time with him on drums because he's jammed with me here a few times.
Yeah, he never
Howie,
was
was that-
behind the kit.
Was that fella
Go, Paul.
on percussion when I played at Springbank Gardens with you guys?
I think he was only in 2021. I don't think he was at 2022. Was
Okay.
he at 2022?
I feel like
I don't
maybe
think he was.
I'd have to check.
Was he?
I'd have to check back on the pictures. Yeah,
I
that was
know,
the
I'm
that night that we're talking about now was the night that I've joined these guys for the
Yeah.
first time to play, and that was just as a kind of sit-in.
One of our regulars has joined us here tonight, Dean Boharnish. He's from Halifax. He says, "Good evening to all from a cold Halifax, Nova Scotia. I love meeting these new musicians and hearing some words on how they do things. My question: how big are your current gigs in crowd capacity?"
That's awfully personal. Okay, well, given that we're talking about two groups that are very much on the fringes of the mainstream,
Right.
the Improvisations Trio and the Astral Jams, and Prism Tape Philosophy for that matter, the crowds can vary greatly. And
how big are the rooms? I think that's what he's really after. How big are the
well,
rooms?
I mean, what does the Richmond hold, Howie? What would you guess on a full night? 100?
100, maybe 150. I don't. Yeah, 100, probably more.
Yeah.
Closer to the 100 mark.
Yeah,
They might be licensed for 120 because they have the other side too, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yes, they have the other side.
Yeah.
They might be 120. I mean, there's a really, really cool pub we used to play at in St. Thomas, and its capacity is only 120, I think, or something like that. But we used to pack it out every time we played there.
Well, I wish we could say the same. But again, the music is kind of on the fringes of the mainstream. We don't have a singer, so you can't really sing along.
You're trying to get people to, sit in there and listen to some instrumental jams.
It's missionary work, but
Exactly.
we're all committed to this idea that if you're going to have a vibrant kind of music scene, then it's kind of got to represent all the different stuff that means a music scene. It can't just be this music or that music or this music or that music. So here we are doing our bit for the freakier stuff and the weirder stuff. So, I mean, we've had great turnouts at the Richmond. We've had lower turnouts at the Richmond. We've had great turnouts at the Rosewood or Dundas and Sons. We've had lower turnouts. I mean, music is a fickle thing.
Yes, it is.
Certainly, the entertainment dollar is stretched in a million different ways these days, and even more so with the economic conditions. So I can say that the crowds that we do get, the people that have seen all of these acts that we've been talking about that we're both involved in, the crowds always walk away really appreciating having made the decision to come. We've never driven anybody away, and almost everybody is if they haven't heard that kind of music or had the experience before, they walk away, feeling very much enriched by the experience, because it is in a part dependent on, it's a kind of collective thing. It's the musicians collectively improvising, but the feel of the room and the people who are there and the way that they interact with us as we're playing can make or break a night. It can influence the proceedings in ways that we don't even know. So that kind of adds an element of surprise. So everybody who comes really likes it. Everybody who comes usually comes back at some point. And if they've never experienced anything like that before, they're always really surprised. And I think we convert a few people into fans of that type of music,
Right. Now, you guys, I know that for your trio, you've got stuff on YouTube. So I posted the YouTube link there for people.
Yeah, great.
What about the Astral Jams? Are you guys putting stuff up on YouTube?
We have, at this point, there's one thing up on YouTube. There's one everything for Astral Jams, Prism Tape Philosophy. That's all hosted on my YouTube page. Right. And we have one thing from Astral Jams. There's quite a few Prism Tape Philosophy videos there.
Right.
We also have a website, www.prismtapephilosophy.com, and that has links to our Bandcamp, our YouTube videos, and our Facebook page. There's a Prism Tape Philosophy page, there's an Astral Jams page, and then the London Creative Music Initiative, we have a page. But the Prism Tape page is really good for being able to send you to the links. I will say this about live shows. Our residencies we're doing these in a very small bar in downtown London. However, we do put on festivals. That's kind of the point of the London Creative Music Initiative, is to to get together like-minded artists and put on shows, larger shows, combine fan bases. So we've done 2 of those at East Side. And when you play East Side, I think that's a 400 something capacity room. And,
Yeah, full production, lights and everything.
Yeah.
And we can easily get, 100, 200 people to those shows. We do some events. We just did the Cosmic Debris Festival out at our keyboard player Brent's farm, which is also a venue, Quiet Earth, out in Dorchester.
Is that the one where they do Back to the Garden?
Used to, yes.
Okay.
Back to the Garden is now permanently on hold, or whatever you want, on permanent hiatus. Is that what they like to say? He's not counting out doing it again, but he's kind of shifted, because just like the Close to the Edge festival that we talked to, we used to do that, but funding is next to impossible to get.
Is he going to do anything out at the barn?
He does things all the time. He's usually booked.
Oh, somebody's volume's up on something. We're hearing an echo back here.
Yeah, no, you know what it is. My phone heard you ask about Quiet Earth, and AI decided to answer you.
No way.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
It was talking about Back to the Garden.
I consider you lending my AI representative.
Damn that AI. We did a show on AI, a couple of shows on AI a while back, and how much, I'm not a fan, man.
We're gonna have to stay away from this. You're gonna put me in professor mode, man.
But it's you know what? It's all in the ears of the listener, man. It always is in the ears of the listener. And the great thing about music, there's something for everybody.
It's true.
But typically, like for instance, so yes, Brent does things at Quiet Earth. It's now become quite the live music venue, and he's usually by the time he opens the doors, like in May, he's booked all the way until October.
So that's a venue people can book.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know he did it as a booking venue.
Yep, 100%. It's a legit venue with all the facilities, and
So if a record label wanted to book it, they could book it.
Of course.
I think you should probably talk to Brent about that.
No, Brent's all for putting music out there. That's what he built that venue for.
Right.
But when we did, say, Cosmic Debris, and we also did a Howie stock a couple of years ago, that was to celebrate me becoming a Canadian citizen, which had Brother Leeds and Newport Electric, Broomsticks and Hammers, Westminster Park. I mean, there was about 10, 12 bands at that. And when we do things out there, you can easily draw 200-300 people out there. But also, like when I used to do Close to the Edge, that was at Springbank Gardens here in an outdoor venue, which was the first place that Paul played with us. We had the first year was about 1,500 people, and the second year we had about 3,000 people. And we've done shows at the now gone, completely leveled Oldies 765. That was a legendary show back in 2020. That was completely standing room only, packed wall to wall like sardines. So that's more like a 750 capacity. So we do play festivals and other events where we can have anywhere from 200 to 2,000 people, but our residencies are in a, let's just say 100 capacity room with a varying degrees from 5 to 50 people.
Yes.
Well, and the weird thing about that, the thing about that is that you're doing it during the week, right? So not everybody goes out during the week, Yeah. It's you might have, the winter time. I don't know. A lot of people don't want to go out in the winter. especially when it's like -17 outside, right?
Oh, sure. Then, we've had to cancel gigs for weather,
Yep.
amongst other reasons. But, part of the weeknight thing is also to allow, because everybody else works, professionally in other musical
I'm
contexts
gonna
that are more
wager.
mainstream.
I'm gonna wager that you guys are gonna get a much bigger crowd when the warm weather comes and that back window behind you is open.
We'll see.
And people strolling by on the street can hear what's going on there. Yeah, I honestly do believe that. I mean, when we were in Nashville, right? I would hear music coming from a bar, and I'm like, I got to go see that band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's one
And
of the things that we love about the Richmond is it does have that vibe because the band is back,
100%.
to the street, that you get that thing that you get in Nashville and other cities where you walk by and you see the band. So many of the venues around here in North American venues, a lot of other North American venues, the band's deep inside the bar. So you never really know what's going on until you actually make the commitment to go in.
So the cool thing when you're out on a nice warm evening and you're walking, you hear music, you're like, oh, I want to go check that out. Right. That's what I used to love about London downtown. I remember Mingle's Bar and all these other bars that had open windows to the street. You could hear the band playing and you're like, oh, I got to go and listen to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of other leads, by the way, Steve Sinclair has joined into your chat.
Oh, there's trouble.
He has.
And Dean Bow, hi, Steve. And ask him about the time we slept together once. Dean Bow chimed in. He wants to know. Yeah, actually, it's a lady here in London who knits and she knits like dozens upon dozens of mittens, hats, and scarves, and puts them out for the homeless and anybody in need. She puts them in Ziploc bags and clips them all around town. And I was lucky enough to get a couple from her, which I have a tendency to wear a lot.
That's pretty cool, man. That's awesome.
And he asked us how long we've been playing music. It says, Howie, who made you two, Ken? How long have you been playing music? I started playing guitar in 1978. So what was that? 47 years?
A long time ago. We don't do the math anymore, Howie.
And but I didn't actually start actively making my own music. I was like most musicians. I was in a band in high school, and I was in a metal band in high school called Risk.
Okay,
and played all the Eddie Van Halen stuff because it was 1984.
Right.
And then I took a whole bunch of weird side journeys, but at the core of my side journeys was being more behind the scenes than actually being a player. And so I was a touring guitar tech for many years. I worked for Peter Frampton, for Scotty Moore from Elvis's band, Waylon Jennings.
So you've been influenced by music most of your life.
It's all I've been, even though I've had weird side journeys and day jobs. Right. It's always been nothing but about music. And I did radio, coinciding with all that, but that was always just part of my need to share, promote music and teach people. That was how I helped people's music get out and help people learn about music that they maybe wouldn't have known about. So when I moved up here in 2013, I married Vera, who was in the chat. She's at work, so I don't know if she's up at. I married a Canadian because she listened to my radio show. I had a Frank Zappa radio show. She was a fan. We ended up in a relationship. I came up here, and at that point, I was getting ready to turn 50, and I kind of went, I better I'm not touring and making other people look and sound good anymore. Maybe I should make some music. So I put out a solo record when I turned 50. And that project morphed into Prism Tape Philosophy and then into where we are and what we're doing now. So I've been making music and involved in music and a musician for a heck of a long time, but I've been extremely active in the past about 12 years. And
So I was gonna ask you that, like, how much of an influence Zappa has been on your music for both you guys. There's
well,
there's a musical genius right there.
I have his guitar tattooed on my arm, if that helps you, and you can
So-
see what's behind me.
Just about everything.
So I'm
including
gonna
a-
tell. I gotta tell you, I saw Frank for my very first time in 1974 at the London Arena. I was 15 years old, and I saw Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and it was a show that just blew my mind. I mean, it absolutely blew my mind. It was like being at the very, very best live theater, only with some of the best music I ever heard.
Wild.
It was amazing. The instrumentation and the care with which each musician in that band played. And there's so many parts of that show that stand out in my mind. Terry Bozzio playing the devil when they did Titties and Beer.
Amazing.
I mean, and then who was the black singer in the band?
Napoleon Murphy Brock.
Yeah, he had a killer voice, man. Killer freaking voice.
At that time frame, anyway.
Yeah,
Frank was my first concert. I was 9 years old. I bought a ticket myself with money I had made by washing cars and collecting
Right.
bottles and whatnot.
Right.
And because I saw a poster at a record store and realized that I could take the bus to Oakland because I lived in San Jose, California at the time. So my parents thought that I was at my friend Carlos's house for the night, and I went to Oakland as a 9-year-old and saw Frank Zappa.
She looked over at me with some bovine perspiration on her upper lip area.
But yeah, so I was introduced to Frank when I was I lived with my uncle Gary, who's a renowned blues harpist in Anchorage, Alaska, till I was 4. And he gave me my first record, which is Hot Rats, and I took that with me to that concert.
Hot Rats,
and I got it signed. And then every time I went to a Zappa show, I saw him 7 times.
Right.
He would recognize me and he would acknowledge me and talk to me. So that led to me corresponding with him for many years. And that's how I ended up having the only official Frank Zappa radio show.
Oh wow! When we saw them in '74, we were right up front of the stage. There was no security back then, right? It was general admission. I think it was $4.50 for the ticket to get in, and we were right up against the stage, man. We were interacting with the band all night long, and they would be looking at us like when they would be interacting with the audience. It was kind of cool back then because in the front few rows, they could see the people in the front few rows, but the lights were so bright they couldn't see people behind us. But everybody got to interact with the bands back then when you were up close. And they were a very interactive band. Very captivating.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's an influence for you. What about you, Paul? Zappa an influence on you?
Well, the hot take is no, not really. I mean, I've certainly heard a little bit of the music, and a lot of the musicians that obviously played in Zappa's band became, members of various projects. But to me, it's a bewildering project. So thankfully, I have Howie to guide me through it from time to time whenever I dabble.
Right. So did you have it? Did you have somebody that was an improvisational musician? Because Frank was like the best.
Oh, I mean, the earliest influences were pretty typical for a kid in the 80s, right? We heard all the hair metal stuff and the widdly guitar licks and thought that's the coolest thing in the world to do. But it didn't take long for me to go from that into the British Blues Revival and the Allman Brothers Band and all of that. And then realizing, of course, where that all came from. So, I was more of a blues and British blues and American blues guy for the earlier part of my playing career. But
Right.
when I was in high school, I was really taken by the improvisatory side of bands like the Allman Brothers Band. And that really quickly turned me into a bit of a jazz head. So, I was a Miles Davis guy, and probably the most pivotal musical experiences, though, were here in town. There was a guy named, very, preeminent Canadian avant-gardist and improviser named Eric Stock. And Eric has, he's an incredible influence on me. And he had a group called the Free Music Unit, and they played every, I can't remember what night of the week it was, but we were 15 and 16 and going down to the Embassy Cultural House at the departed,
Right.
no longer with us, Embassy Hotel on Dundas. I don't know what I was doing down that end
Right.
of town, when I was 15 years old, but there I was. And there was a few devotees that would go, and Eric's whole thing was he would introduce different musicians every gig, and they would spontaneously improvise 3 sets. And
Wow.
here we were as teenagers going, what in the hell is this? And
What the hell is this?
we had no idea what that was, but we loved it. And Eric was really appreciative. And I ended up, getting to know him fairly well. And I have good friends who also kind of cycled through his projects. And I got to play with him a few times as well with some other great avant-gardists from the Spasm Band and others. And so those were huge influences on me. And, by the time I was 15 and 16, I was very much... I was completely in the jazz world. And that kind of took me all the way through university and things like that. Brad's talking about UZEB. Yes, of course, man. I mean, I love UZEB. They're one of my favorite groups. And
I'm going to have to listen to him now.
again, a group that I
him.
was introduced to when I was in high school. They're a preeminent Canadian, French Canadian fusion band. And I was introduced to them in high school, as you do back then, probably through
Right.
magazines and things like that. And I was probably the only kid in my high school actually liked that kind of music. So
You guys are
maybe
kind of
there's one or two other guys, but
You guys are kind of blowing me away tonight. I mean, I think I'd like to have you guys on again on the show collectively, but maybe also singular, because, I don't know if you want to talk about any of that stuff, but you work closely with one of my favorite musicians ever, Peter Frampton.
Yes, I did.
There's a very, very talented individual. I don't know what he was like to work with personally, but I appreciate his musicianship every day.
One of my favorite experiences in the business, absolutely. He was a real gentleman and scholar, as it were, as was Scotty Moore and DJ Fontana from Elvis's band. That's probably the highlight of my experiences, was working for Scotty Moore. But
I'd love
Peter,
to have somebody like Peter on our show. We had Rick Emmett on the show not long ago,
oh, cool.
and he was
Nice.
so much fun to have on the show.
I bet.
Another really extremely talented dude,
Oh, what a guitar player, man.
and he's got one sold out show now. He's doing this acoustic thing. He's got another one coming up. He had to book a second show because the first show sold out in record time.
Oh, great. As it should.
So I think we're going to have Rick back on the show, and I would love anybody in, you've been in Frampton's camp, so you'd be a great guy to have on the show just to talk about him. And I'm sure there's some people who follow Peter Frampton that would love to hear some of those stories if you're willing to share them with people.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, we have there's a guy who I play with in another band, the Mongrels, and he says I'm like the rock and roll Forrest Gump.
Yep.
It came from saying that one of my spirit animals is Al Cooper, and I was like, I don't know what it is about him, but I just bond with that guy so much. He goes, because you guys are both like rock and roll Forrest Gumps. You just stumble through the scene and get
Right
shot
place
in
at
the
the right
butt.
time.
And the Frampton thing, I got asked to run monitors at a Peter Frampton show because somebody was sick or whatever, and somebody said, I've seen you at other shows, and I know you know how to run things. You want to do monitors, and I had never run monitors, but I was like, sure. Plus, I was getting paid, so. I had a day off and I was getting paid, and it was music.
So did you tech with Frampton as well? Did you tech with him?
Yes. So I was actually signed up. I got the gig for a day to be his monitor guy at a benefit concert for SPCA in Nashville. And I was actually had been asked to go out as a guitar tech with 9 Inch Nails. And I hadn't accepted that job yet, but I was planning on it. Like the next day I was going to make a phone call and say, yeah, I'll do it.
Right.
And Frampton came through, and for starters, Frampton came in, and we had like a huddle with his manager in the middle of the room, and we're talking about the day and what, you know, the schedule. And I said, when's Peter going to get here? And the manager's kind of like,
Really?
and I like looked over at the
In
guy
the room.
next to me,
In the room.
and like, for starters, I'm looking over his head, and I'm not very tall. Okay. Like, I'm a short dude. I'm like looking over his head. He's bald. He's got on glasses. He's wearing a velour tracksuit. And I'm like, Pierre Frampton's like 7 feet tall, long blonde flowing hair, you know, like this is not a rock god. What is going on? And I was like, whoa, shit. So this was a benefit concert, and Peter has to have 2 microphones because he has one microphone for his guitar. Nowadays, I think I've seen him do it differently, but back then he had a center stage mic where he did most of his stuff, but then he would go over to stage left to do his talk box stuff.
That's right.
And 2 completely separate rigs, which were the most complicated rig I've ever encountered to this day. I had to have a binder to show me how to run and assemble his rig.
More complicated than yours, man?
Well, I might have surpassed, except his was all Bradshaw and worth about $7 million. But they didn't have a spotlight on the talkbox mic. And his manager's like, you can't have him do, you know, his big hits where he has to play a talkbox and not have a spotlight on. And they're like, well, it's a union job. There's no way we're going to get somebody in here.
Oh,
and
geez.
we broke for lunch. And once the room was cleared, I climbed up into the rigging and moved the spotlights onto Frampton, and then went back about my business. And when everybody came back, I told the manager that, hey, just so you know, I fixed it. And he's like, oh, that's great. Well, in the meantime, I had discovered that he didn't have a guitar tech, that his guitar tech had just gotten fired. So the bass tech was doing guitar and bass. And mind you, Peter wasn't the only person playing guitar. You had Bob on the piano too. So he was just frustrated. I'm not a guitar tech. This is too complicated. It's over my head. And I kind of chipped in to help him. And he found out that I was a guitar tech and told them. And then they came after the show and said, you want to jump on the bus? And this would have been 96. So it was the unofficial Frampton Comes Alive 20th anniversary tour. There was never an official tour like there was the 30.
Wow.
Actually, I think there was official 25 and official 30, but there was no 20 because he hadn't made his big comeback yet. You know, he was kind of, hence the fact that I didn't even recognize him, right?
Right. Did his guitar playing influence you at all?
Oh, he's one of my all-time favorite guitar players. And I will tell you right now that when they asked me if I wanted to do the show, I wasn't sure about it. But after standing in front of him playing a sound check, I was like, I need to spend a whole bunch more time listening to this guy play. And he's just phenomenal. His tone and his phrasing is impeccable. He's an amazing guitar player and a really nice guy.
That's amazing. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me on the show tonight and sharing so much of what you guys are doing. We've got the Astral Jams. That is the second Wednesday of the month,
Yep.
Correct.
and we've got and which is your trio called, Paul?
Oh, I just use the last names of the guys, so it's Aitken, Ladd, and Peacock.
Aitken, Ladd, and Peacock.
Yep.
Every last
The fourth Thursday of each.
fourth Thursday of each month.
So Astral Jam's on the 12th of February, and the trio's on the 27th of February.
So hit the Richmond. Check it out.
Yeah, please
Check
come.
these guys out. And we've got another London band that has. Are they not playing a residency there as well?
Who's it?
Newport Electric plays there on Sundays, don't they?
Yep.
Newport plays the third Sunday of the month.
Yeah.
And the band that I have been sitting in with since 2016, the Mongrels, have a residency there. We play there the first Sunday of every month.
And Nick, the drummer from the Astral Jams, is the drummer in the Mongrels.
I
With
think
me.
Sunday afternoon matinees are going to take off, guys.
Yeah, you think there's something to it, eh?
Well,
I think those bands are doing good.
I honestly think there was. I mean, when the Mongrels and Brother Leeds and Newport Electric played at the East Side Bar and Grill, they got a good turnout on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that was a great afternoon.
Yeah.
Well,
So I mean,
the thing is that we're in where we are right now is post COVID. The economic place that we're at is very difficult for live music, but also we're a generation at least out of people that's normal, that to go out to live music. So to be honest, a lot of these bands, their audience is getting older. Like I'm good friends with Dweezil Zappa, and he does his tours to bring his father's music out to a younger generation, which but for the most part, it's his dad's fans. And he at the last interview,
there's another guy I'd love to have on the show, Dweezil. There's another really talented dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And nicest guy on the planet.
You guys have got to come back on the show.
Oh, I'd love to, man. It's been great to meet you and talk to you.
Yeah, it's great having you here.
What I was going to say really quick is that Dweezil has pointed out to me that he goes, my core audience, whether I like it or not, is my dad's audience, and they're dying. He's like, every year I see fewer and fewer familiar faces in the audience. And but I've noticed that the people that are of a certain age who by default grew up listening to live music appreciate matinees. So matinees are really a boon and a boom for live music. It really is.
I'd like to see some Saturday afternoon matinees kick up too, because some people are busy on Sunday with family stuff.
Well, the Richmond is matinees on both days, so you'll find sometimes Tom Dunphy's Country Act will be there, or the Risdales will be there on a Saturday. Sometimes Hot Sauce will be down there.
I think it's something that a lot of pubs should look into is Saturday afternoon matinees. Because
plus a little day drinking on the weekend. Why not?
A lot of old people don't want to go out late at night anymore and stay out late at night at a show anymore. They want to go out on a Saturday afternoon, have dinner, and go home and sit on the couch and watch their favorite TV.
Yeah, well, you can do it all with the matinee. That's for sure.
That's right. The matinee allows you a whole completely different way to order your life, and for retired people, that might just be right up their alley to do something like that.
Sure is. The crowds are great.
Yeah, and retirees have got decent fixed income. Some retirees have decent fixed income, so they can afford to go out on a Saturday afternoon. There you go.
Bands like the Mongrels and the Risdales pack out those matinees.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's awesome. I'm really glad that they're doing that. Well, we're a period and a half into overtime here. I really want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. We got Howie Kittleson. He is with the Astral Jams. We got Paul Aitken, who is with his buddies over at the Richmond, the fourth Thursday of each month. Check them out. We put some links up in the chat there. Check them out on Facebook and on YouTube. They've got some stuff up on YouTube. You can check their stuff out there as well. We're going to have them back on the show. This has been an awesome and enlightening time for me. This has been the Indie Show. I'm Kenny. You are not. Have a great